Okay, welcome to Probate Weekly. I'm Bill Gross at Bill Gross Probate on social media and Bill Gross Probate if you want to find my website. And welcome to Probate Weekly,
Okay,
which is
welcome to Probate Weekly. I'm Bill
whoa.
Gross.
Let's get the volume up
Bill
for
Gross.
that. Technology, man, it's always something. So we do this every Thursday morning live at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And we live stream it onto YouTube. But you can come on the Zoom call. And if you're interested in coming in the Zoom, you can register at probateweekly.com, www.probateweekly.com. If you do that, you get reminders, invites to the YouTube replays, as well as option to come in on the Zoom Live. And the reason we do the Zoom Live is as I coach real estate agents in this space, and even attorneys about making their own content as well as doing business development, talking to people is a critical skill. It's a critical activity. And so the idea here is that we have guests here who are live. We could do this easily on another format, but I do this so you guys can ask questions. So if you have questions you want to ask our guests or me, raise your hand either in the chat box using the Zoom hand raise tool or put a note in there in the chat box, or if you're brave, just unmute yourself and jump in and we'll work it in when we can. I see Karyn camera off and muted. I don't know if she's ready to jump in there. Karyn, whenever you're ready, we're ready for you. There she is.
Ready.
There we are with a big smile. So really excited today to have our guest, Karyn Stiles. And Karyn is a professional fiduciary with Lassahn Fiduciary Services. And I think one of the things with opportunities here that we don't talk about in probate is because the probate real estate industry is dominated by companies that sell data. They just sell us to people who've already filed probate, which are either going to be attorneys, so telling you cold call attorneys, that's a tough road, or families who've already filed probate who decide they don't need help, and you try to talk them into it. And there's some value there. But I think as you go up the food chain, you look for people who have problems. People with bigger assets have bigger problems, and oftentimes those families or those attorneys are hiring professionals to help them with fiduciary services along the way. And so one of those professionals I've come across, and we have interviewed on our channel before, we had a great discussion. I invited her back, is Karyn Stiles with Lassahn Financial. Karyn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Give me a little background. How did you end up in fiduciary services?
Yeah, good question. It's kind of a niche career, and it wasn't very widely known about. Obviously, we're coming into a different time with a lot of baby boomers and a lot of wealth transfer. So it's becoming more popular now, but it started for me as a family gig, and my cousin started the company almost 30 years ago. And someone just kind of mentioned it to her, you should try this. And then my sister joined and I joined when I graduated college. I left to go get my CPA license and I came back. My CPA license doubles as a fiduciary license. And I've been back with the company for many years, but you do have to be pretty well-rounded. It's a lot of finance. You have to know some real estate, you have to know tax, you have to know finance and insurance. But then you also have to sometimes care for, individuals while they're alive. So that's how I got into it. And it's just kind of, I love all of those things. Sounds weird, but so I stuck with it.
You can't help but notice if you go to the website, lassonfiduciary.com, we have a link in the chat box to find out about Karyn. You're going to scroll past Kelsey, who looks amazingly like and has the same last name. So I knew there's some nepotism in there somehow along the way, but good for you. It must be fun to work with your sister.
Yeah, sister and cousin. And then we also have another set of sisters in the office. So
wow.
We tend to hire people that are close to us. And so it's a really, there are 14 of us now. We happen to be all women. And, I guess the best referral is word of mouth. And sometimes that happens to be a sibling. So
what's the most common trust or estate or situation that you manage? What's the most, I'm sure there's a wide range, and I know the nature of business is there's a wide range, but if you were to try to summarize, what's the most common size, the most common scenario that you get involved with?
Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's very such a wide variety. You know, the three of us are also on the court list, so we get conservatorships, and I think everyone knows what a conservatorship is now because of Britney Spears. So we work with those. So you know, that could be just a wide range of either issues or financial levels. I would say the majority of our clients, you know, we're on the peninsula in the Bay Area. And if you have a house, it's over $1 million. So I would say, you know, for asset level wise, it's, you know, probably about 4 million. And we also choose, you know, we're a pretty established firm. You know, we're larger than most. And so we don't take a lot of clients that we won't be the most efficient for. You know, we're more than happy to talk to people and point them in the right direction. But we're also not the most, you know, the least expensive. So sometimes it's just not efficient for us to take clients that don't have over $1 million or 2 million. Not saying that we won't. You know, we like to hear stories and talk to people. So there's always that route. But most are, you can get into a trust many different ways. One is the actual grantors, the people making the trust, write you in. You know, they see this happening. They don't have kids. Their kids are not financially savvy. They live out of state. You know, they see what's coming and they plan for themselves and they write us into their trust. And then we don't talk to them for many years. And when we're needed, we step in. Another route that happens frequently, unfortunately, is that a child is the trustee. And as soon as that happens, very common between siblings, that all of a sudden you're not brother and sister anymore, or sister and sister. You are trustee and beneficiary. So that relationship can change and cause a lot of turmoil, especially when there's any already, you know, wounds from the past. A lot of the times there's fighting, very expensive fighting. And instead of continuing that fighting, their settlement is really to ask a third party to come in and administer. So we do that. And then a lot of vacancies. So a lot of people in their trust name their brother, their sister, their cousin, their neighbor, all of whom are the same age as them. And when you do that, you're kind of making a gamble, you know, who is going to be alive last. And if you're the same age, if you're 80 and you need someone to help you and your neighbor's also 80, are they going to want to do it? And so
Are they able to do it?
Are you able? Yeah. And so a lot of the times, you know, we've been named fourth in line in a trust, you know, really just as a backup.
Right.
And we've gotten called because of that reason.
Right.
And so, yeah, so a lot of times there can be a vacancy in that trustee position, which is when we can step in also.
So as a fiduciary, your job is, you know, no different than the executive administrator. You're playing the role of that person, right? You're stepping in for them and doing the work for them. And so, you know, we call this Probate Weekly, but really probate in California is where trusts are litigated and conservatorships are litigated and guardianships is kind of, so I picked that term to kind of be more broad. And so when you are stepping in and taking in, what are the most common duties? I mean, for example, what percentage of time is there real estate that needs to be disposed of? For example, maybe decedent's residence or investment properties that need to be disposed as opposed to properties that are held for continued investment?
Almost every case. You know, there are occasionally, for example, I had a trust where most of the property was distributed in kind. So we didn't have to sell it. It went outright to a beneficiary. So occasionally that will happen. Sometimes, especially if there's more than one child, that's not always the greatest choice because of difference in values and keeping it even if that's what the parent wants to do. So I would say, I would say 99% of our clients have real estate. And unless a child wants to buy out the other children, then we do have to sell it and liquidate it. So it is almost every case. It's at different times. So obviously when we have clients that are living and we don't sell their properties right out from under them unless it's absolutely necessary.
One spouse passes, the other one's still alive. They want to stay in the house most commonly.
Right. So, it comes in time. It's not, we get on and sell, but we do many real estate transactions. And I want to give you an estimate per year, but I don't even know what that is.
Okay. So I imagine some of your business comes from real estate related people, whether they're the customer or a real estate agent introduced the customer to them, and you can respect that relationship. Other times there's no relationship identified. And in those cases, does the customer tell you, oh, we want to use Betty Boop, the realtor? Or do you say, this is kind of a specialized business. We want to have somebody that we know can do the job properly, and you recommend somebody? Or I imagine it's a combination of those two.
Yeah, you're right. So I'm selling a house right now, and the client, the beneficiary is involved, and he found the realtor and he wanted to use her. And then I kind of do the vetting, I make sure she's legitimate. And I also we always get more than one proposal. So for every real estate transaction, we have at least 2 or 3 realtors give us their proposal. But if a client does have a realtor in mind, we definitely put them in with those proposals. And, we want to use someone that they want to use. So as long as that realtor, is legitimate and we feel comfortable with that, then we will use them. Most of the time, beneficiaries are not that heavily involved in the administration. And so, we do use realtors. So what's important to us is that the realtor is mostly in that area. They really do specialize in certain areas. And we've had just some issues with, Southern California realtors that were hired to sell something up here. And it hasn't worked out that smoothly. And that's really, we didn't hire them. They were, already there. But so we tend to find somebody, word of mouth, someone local in that area, or at least willing to do the work and the research to be there.
What does a proposal that you like, or what would you like to see in a proposal, and what kinds of things do you see are unnecessary or detrimental in a proposal from a real estate agent applying for the job to sell property?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm happy you asked it. It's, for us, it's important. We just need to be aware. What if all of a sudden we're selling the house and we're told, oh, you need to spend $50,000 putting lipstick on it. Like, well, we didn't, decide on that when we were selling it, or, when we were getting the proposals. So we just want to be aware. What do you think needs to be done to the property? Do we really need to do a kitchen remodel? We don't really do that much anymore. Or does it just need some lipstick? And what are the estimated costs? I would also, quotes or estimates for what we're going to spend on those things is very helpful. We have people, in-house that can do that hourly. So it's nice for us to compare. And obviously, the realtor taking more of that off of our hands is wonderful. So that's something, disclosure about pricing to fix it up or get it ready to sell, whether they think it needs to be staged. Also their fees, their percentage, what it should be listed at and why, different comparables, and then also what it's listed at, but also what our goal price is, and so why is that the price? So those are some items, and the comparables are really important to us because we do look at those. And some houses are hard to compare, so just doing the best that we can.
So just to kind of dig a little deeper on cost to fix a property, I know there's the common school of thought is most realtors will talk about staging and fixing things up and painting, and as though that's going to get, and it will get a higher gross sales price. My question always is, will it net you more money? And also, if you count for the time, if the asset is off the market for 30 days or longer, there's also you're paying your taxes, insurance, risking squatters, and it's just sitting there as a dead asset. And so I generally tell customers, there's nothing besides securing the property and safety that will really net you more, net bottom line. Now, I'm in the minority on that. So go ahead and tell me the opposite, or what you see. When have you seen cases where it made sense to do more than, say, just secure the property, clean the property up, make it safe? When have you seen times when more than that? And staging is another one in particular that, a lot of realtors will point to the headline of an article that says, "Oh, staging gets you more money," but when you read the headline or read the article, really it just says staging in that study is about taking out trash and putting things away. It doesn't talk about bringing in furniture and paying for it. So I'm just curious where you are on that. I know that you're dealing with higher end customers and they're more susceptible to the, well, we want a house to look pretty, I think, fallacy.
Yeah, I actually don't disagree with you. But I think it does highly depend on the property um, and the timing. Sometimes, like right now, if we needed to sell a house right now, we're not going to list it right now. We have 3 weeks or so to list it after the new year.
Mm,
And so we do have a little bit of time to get it ready if we needed to.
mm,
With that being said, between the realtor and us, this is our full-time job. We're not a typical customer who has a 9 to 5 and then is doing this in their spare time.
correct.
So we're involved. So we can normally get things done very quickly between the realtor and our office. So having the house off the market, for the 30 days or the 2 months, that's normally not an issue. We have a plan with the realtor, also something to put in the proposal when it should be listed. And so that doesn't worry me. And then it just totally depends on the house. I'll give some examples. We just sold a house that quite literally didn't have a roof on it. And we've sold a house that was pigeon infested, or just a really dilapidated houses.
Those are fun.
It's not fun. But when there are scenarios like that, we know someone's just going to come in and wipe the whole thing out. And so we're not going to waste time or money doing anything to it. And then there are other, the most common is, an elderly person who lives in their house and doesn't have the same style as everybody else. And I think realtors may, the ones that I've talked to that we've done this for, and myself, buying a house and selling houses, people don't have that great of imaginations. And so when you do deliver a property to them that's severely outdated, it's hard for people to imagine what they can do with it. And so I do think lightening it up sometimes, if there's, we had a house with bright pink walls and pink carpet and popcorn ceiling, that does lower the value a little bit. And so for us to be able to get all that out and done in 2 days to make it look so much brighter and bigger and the perception of the property to buyers, I think that is beneficial. But you're right, cost benefit. How much does it cost? And how much, are we going to get for it? But I do think, and the more offers we have, the more we can let them, fight against each other. So I do think it's important to get those offers. And when the house, looks better, looks bigger, looks brighter, and gives people the ability to imagine what they can do with it, I think that we'll get more bids. So in turn, I think that could turn out well. But again, every property is very different. You hit it spot on with the, with people living there or vacant homes. It is really dangerous, especially for us. We have a super high liability issue in our business, and if you have just regular homeowners insurance and nobody's living there, that is not sufficient. You do have to have a vacant home policy.
Right.
And this is really important. And I think most, non-professional fiduciaries, or, people selling houses don't necessarily think of this. And it's a lot more expensive than just a normal homeowners. Probably for that reason, squatters, people know that you're not there. Then they can go and steal. And so that is definitely a little bit more expensive, and a good tip for clients, just make sure that people tell their insurance brokers, their insurance agent, that the home is vacant, and
Right.
switch it to a vacant home policy for however
Right.
long you need.
Right. Otherwise, you're asking for trouble. In California today, you're really asking for trouble. Real quick, let's do some housekeeping real quick, just to make sure everybody knows where we're at. This is Probate Weekly. We do this every Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, and then we 12 noon Eastern time. We live stream it on YouTube. Oops, I lost my spot there. We live stream this as well onto YouTube. Then we'll broadcast it on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. And then you continue the conversation on Facebook. We have a Facebook group called also Probate Weekly, where not only can you ask questions and we'll answer them, but you can also post your content. And here's an example. Kevin Bemmel's one of our favorites, where he'll post. Reed's another one. They'll post their YouTube videos that are related to probate and trust real estate, and that way we can help each other get more views and engage the conversation. He has all kinds of great questions and answers that go on there. You can register at www.probateweekly.com and just put in your phone number if you want text reminders. Put in your phone number, and you'll get invited to the Zoom call if you want to, as well as the live stream for YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn on the replay. If you scroll down, you can also catch us in other audio formats, as well as see the past episodes on YouTube. Our guest today is with Lassahn Fiduciary Services. We'll put it in the chat box. LassahnnFiduciary.com is the website. And then if you go to find her and you scroll down suspiciously, what? They look alike and they got the same last name. What's going on here? I suspect some nepotism. Of course it is. It's your sister. So there you go. So thank you for being on today, Karyn. So let's talk about, obviously there's real estate and what I kind of call the world of regular real estate, right? There's marketing the real estate, there's preparing the real estate, there's, evaluating it price-wise. But there's also occasionally, and not every case, and I would say in a minority, specialized real estate contracts, skills, information related to probate and trust real estate. And that happens in my particular area. And I deal more with probate cases and litigation. And I know that's not the majority of your cases. You're not always getting litigation, but I'm sure you come across them. So talk a little bit about what types of cases do you think need somebody with some a real estate agent maybe with some special knowledge or understanding, or do you just assume they're not going to have it and you fill in the void with the attorney?
Good question. A little bit of both. I think where it makes a difference for us is when having somebody that's familiar with selling a house, with a trustee or a fiduciary, kind of the administrative side, and really, us and the attorney and the real estate agent work together. But it's really helpful when the real estate agent has done that before or knows what's involved. Sometimes in probates, escrow for title companies will require notice of proposed actions. And, knowing upfront, or at least having the realtor ask the escrow or title company if they're going to need that, is super helpful. I'm in the process of selling one right now, and the realtor has done some work for us in the past, and he reached out to me and said, I'm going to ask the title. So just so we don't have any issues,
Right.
It's going to be an all cash offer. This is the one with no roof on it. And so instead of accepting an offer that's a 10-day close, if we do need a NOPA, we need time to send that out and have it verified. So he did all of that up front. And when we were accepting offers, we said, okay, we cannot close until, we need a 20-day close. So even an offer with 10-day close, we said we need 20, and obviously they may not care. But, so knowing things, on the legal side, and a lot of that comes just with experience. That's super helpful. Also in the titling, I think a lot of people in general, not, just real estate agents, but a lot of people don't understand what a trust is or an estate. And so, signing my name, Karyn Stiles, trustee of blah, blah, blah trust, or, special administrator, executor, what those titles are and what should actually be on the listing agreement, on all the signing documents. And obviously we look at everything we're signing so we can correct it if need be, but having someone knowing what documents they're looking at, and also knowing what documents are going to be needed at title, looking at the title report, and are there any nuances? We had an old loan from 1983 on this title report that luckily, they researched and found before, we needed to close again.
Right.
Just so that there are no hiccups.
Right.
So I would say, learning about what a trust versus a will versus probate, special administrator, all of those terms kind of mean, just to have a general understanding, is a little bit helpful. And then the paperwork needed, which mostly the attorney deals with, but even having a, we have a lot of clients going on and sometimes we forget too. But checking the paperwork and making sure that our name is actually on the house, right? On the title, because a lot of the times we get on and the county has not processed the change in ownership. And so making sure that those documents are included in the escrow package. And I'd say that's actually really common. I got on to a case in September and now we're selling the house. Well, the county obviously hasn't, processed that paperwork to add my name.
Right.
So just making sure all of that is readily available.
So there's a lot to unpack. If I can just go back a little bit for those who may not be in California and familiar with it, or those in California not familiar, she used the term NOPA, Notice of Proposed Action. So in a probate in California, you have two types. Limit authority needs the court to approve it. Very structured process, very detailed process. About 10% of cases, when there's either limited authority or litigation, require the court to approve it. Those that don't, where they have full authority, you still need to, in many cases, send out a notice of proposed action to all interested parties so that they have a chance to object. And this is a missed point oftentimes. People don't know that has to get done. And so they'll have the property and at the last minute, oh, we forgot to send out the NOPA. And as Karyn points out, either you have to wait 10 days for it to expire, you notice them properly, hopefully, and then you wait 10 days and file with the court. Or worse, they might say, no, I object. You're selling it too cheap. You're selling it to my brother's friend, and I think we're getting ripped off here. Now you have a whole big problem. And so you need to know that process. So the notice of proposed action is really critical to strategize. How do you want to do it? When do you want to send it out? Is everybody on board with this? Or is there somebody lurking that's going to cause a problem? And that's why speed is so important. She also mentioned about the title report, and I think it's best practice for any real estate agent in California. Every title company will allow us to order the preliminary title report as soon as we list the property. There's no excuse for not getting it and getting to work on it right away. And I think she points out every escrow company wants to wait till the last second to clear everything. And the problem is that last second might take them a week or two to clear it, versus if we get the prelim up front, hey, what's this 1983 mortgage? It's been paid off. Let's get started on it now and get the documents. Then we do that. And then lastly, she pointed out, again, I'm sorry to unpack here, but you're so full of good information. Knowing the titles, I think real estate agents, we just don't take the time to realize its importance. There's a distinction between executor, which means you're written in the will to execute the will, administrator, which means you're not, but you're filing to do the will of the estate, trustee, special administrators, another term. And I think that when you use the right term, you show the other professionals like the fiduciary that you take this seriously. And there's just no excuse not to. I mean, it's on a piece of paper somewhere, and it doesn't change really during the course, generally speaking, during the course of transactions. So I think it's important to learn the right term and then make sure your documents have that right term. Joe Smith, comma, special administrator. Joe Smith, comma, executor of the such and such estate. So she points out some great stuff there. And again, Karyn, I just feel like you're giving some great gold to make sure we all pick up the nuggets and knows what they are.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest mistake that you've seen a real estate agent who works with your firm? Maybe they're brought in by the customer, or maybe you picked them, unwittingly. And what or the most common mistakes that you see other real estate agents make that you think that they should be able to avoid with some proper training or preparation?
Um, I feel really lucky that I don't know that we've come across too many mistakes.
Good for you.
And I think that comes in part by one, the real estate agent being professional, and then two, us as a backup that do it quite often. And so, gosh, I think, and it's hard because a lot of the things that go wrong in the transaction is not necessarily not always the real estate agent's fault.
Right.
It's because we
Right.
didn't know there was a loan on the title, or
Right.
something like that. So I can't even think of some major issues. I think the only service issue that we've had is that real estate agents, maybe because we are there and we can pick up the slack, and they work with us a lot and it's our job, I think sometimes they assume that we can just do it. And for us, it's a business also. And the less time we spend, the less time we need to pay our employee to go do this for you,
Right.
or for the sale, is better for us. So I'd say making it as easy as possible on the client. I mean, that's, this is your service. This is what you're getting paid for. That's very helpful. And sometimes we are relied on because it's our job too. And we need to kind of remind realtors, well, no, wait a minute, we are paying you for this. So, meeting, like we've been asked to meet people there, with the key. We've been asked,
Wow.
and it's not our job to show the property, right? And even, handing off the keys to the other realtor, all of those things, because someone was on vacation, that is something that, and I think it's hard because we're not a typical client. This is our job, and it's not necessarily a personalized property for us. But just keeping that in mind, you are getting paid just the same, and we do expect the same, if not better, service.
Right.
And although we can be relied on in times of an emergency where something really needs to happen and we're quick, we get it done. We don't want to. We do expect to, I guess we have high expectations. We do expect to hire somebody that can do the best job for us and not necessarily making us step in.
Again, real quick reminder that if you're interested, asking questions, raise your hand in the Zoom chat or put it in the chat box. You guys are awfully quiet these days. The whole reason we moved from a video format on YouTube to Zoom was, I think as a coach, you guys need to participate more and ask questions, get a chance to meet professionals like this. I think it'd be hard to get a chance to meet with Karyn in person, and that's why we have this call today. So feel free, we're going to enter our last segment here. So, towards that, Karyn, I asked about the mistake. I think, you really point out something that I experienced as well, which is, a lot of the mistakes go away when you work with really good people. I know for me as I work with lenders or title or escrow. I want to work with the best. And I know when I do, things fall into place. I know when I don't, everything like the wheels just fall off when I succumb to the other agent to use a title rep doesn't know what he's doing, or the escrow doesn't know what they're doing. I just feel like I'm in an old jalopy and the wheels are falling off, the steering wheel falls off, and the whole thing just comes to a halt. And at times we've had to switch back and go back to the main vendor, but you want to be somebody who does the job properly. So on the flip side, then, I think you point out a couple opportunities, and I would point them out for people on the call, of ways to create value. What can we do as realtors? Obviously, every data company wants to tell us, oh, find out who files these estates and cold call them. I don't want to do that. I want to meet you because
Please
my
do
clients.
not do that.
Please don't. There you go. And don't send out random junk mail and don't send out random email. I wouldn't. I did because I was coached too, and I realized it was a waste of time. But I'd much rather do is have customers who meet people or have these circumstances and then earn the relationship by going above and beyond. And so she pointed out a couple. I think if you listen closely to those opportunities, oftentimes they're going to go to the house to secure it or get kind of a situation report on the property. But at the same time, we can go there and we can drive around the property and take pictures and knock on the door. Or we can go and get keys, change the locks. We can go and give an assessment of what has to be done before they go to the property. For example, dropping off keys, picking up. Of course, we should go to their office. What a great opportunity to meet the people by getting in the office. They'll say, "Oh, I can't get in the office because they're so closed and secure." Yeah, but when they want to hand you the keys, you get a chance to meet the front desk. Oh, and by the way, the lady at the front desk or the guy at the front desk, they're even more valuable than Karyn because they deal with people all day long. Or they'll go to Karyn and say, "I met the guy Bill. He was really nice." Like that's what you want, right? You bring him or her a Starbucks, you have a best friend, and they're going to go back and tell Karyn how great you are, and Karyn's going to call you back and say, "Hey, we need somebody like you regularly." So, what are some of the things that the better partners do for you that help you so that you say, "Gosh, I wish next time we worked with that person rather than just some random real estate agent"?
Yeah, I'm happy you're asking. And I do think this is a little bit of preference. Every fiduciary or person in general may be different on, what they like with a professional relationship.
Mhm.
From our office standpoint, we don't like to be bombarded.
Who does?
Yeah, we do have a lot of people in our pocket, but with that being said, we always do want more. We always have to mix up our realtors. We are not allowed to receive gifts or compensation or referral fees, and we will not accept them. That's not something we can do. And so keep that in mind. Someone may reject your gift and it's not because they don't like you or they don't like it. We just legally are not allowed to accept anything in return. But I think, there are definitely some professionals we stay away from because it's too much. We are busy. We have full-time jobs and when people do ask us to coffee or to lunch, we often decline because if we did that with everybody that asked us, it'd be way too much time.
Yeah.
And so I would say, and again, this is personal. Every fiduciary may be different, but the way to get in with us is, a brief, hey, can I, first of all, let us know you're coming. Can I stop by and give you my brochure and just let you know what I can do for you. 5 minutes, that's all I need. I am more than happy to meet people and hear what they have to say, and what they can do for us and areas they specialize in. I will tell you that every cold call I get on a property, I ignore. Most of the time people call me and they say, "Hi, I noticed you just became on as trustee. Can I sell the property?" I'm like, "He's living." No, I'm not going to sell his house from him.
Yeah.
So I do ignore those. That's not a good use of my time.
Right.
But I would say, just very brief check-ins. Yes, if you wanted to schedule just a 5-minute, can I come by and deliver my brochure, and let you know what I can do? That is totally fine. And again, I think the areas you specialize in, and the types of houses you specialize in is really beneficial. A good way, to do that is just to let us know. And it's really as simple as that. And maybe that sounds to the realtor like you're not doing enough, but I do promise you, I have a stack of business cards in my drawer that I do keep, and we have a list of people, and sometimes we will ask you for a proposal and you're not going to get the house, And typically we do that a couple times before we actually hire you. So, there is some upfront work. But it's kind of what we have to do our due diligence, especially if we don't know someone or haven't worked with them before.
So there's a key point there that you'll often, and I think you mentioned, ask maybe 2 or 3 real estate agents for a proposal. You're only going to pick one, obviously. So that means at best you're going to get 1 of 3. If you're new, you might do that a few times. You might do that 5 times before you get one. And I always tell realtors, well, I would do 10 proposals to get a listing. If it's not that
Yeah.
much work with
Yeah.
technology today and such. If you know the area, in a proposal, I get phone calls from attorneys, fiduciaries, and say, can you give me an estimate of value of this property or a broker's price opinion? What do you like that report to look like? What's too much? Because I know I see some, and I ask for a realtor in another city for a referral, and I feel like I get this whole big, song and dance, but I don't get the actual data and the numbers that I want to make a decision on. What do you look for in a proposal from a realtor that causes you to want to do business with them versus one where you say, there's a lot of fluff here and I don't think they really know what they're doing?
Yeah, I would say in that scenario, the fluff doesn't bother me. As long as it's a thorough, thought out proposal. It doesn't bother me. It also doesn't impress me. It's the substance of the proposal. So I've received emails, which, it does say the property, what they're going to do, estimated timing, costs, and then also a blurb about themselves and their experience. And I've received that in an email. I've also received, a binder, hard copy, binded, professionally done. I can't help but be impressed by that. It took effort, and that shows effort and professionalism. However, I do think the majority is what's in that report. So I'm not necessarily blinded by the fluff.
Right.
It is the quality of the substance and what's in the report.
Got it. Okay. And is there any, besides stopping by, perhaps dropping off a flyer, when you're called, putting together a nice proposal, is there anything else that real estate agents can do to offer you, for example, a particular service? Is research information helpful? Do you notice on social media, you say, wow, this person seems to really know that area, and as a result, in business with them? Or do you go to network events and meet people there? What else would you recommend somebody, since we know cold calling isn't an answer, what else might you recommend somebody who's trying to break into business and was worthy of your business to get your attention?
Yeah, totally. So there are a lot of professional fiduciary events that I recommend going to, and you can sponsor them. I wouldn't over sponsor. I do, just as a reminder, giving people a little nudge and reminding them of your name every once in a while is sufficient. I don't think you need to sponsor 5 times a year. But there is, if you go onto the PFAC website, PFAC is Professional Fiduciary Association of California for us in California. And there is a list of professional fiduciaries. We also have monthly meetings. And so we have a lot of realtors come to that meeting. It's a lunch meeting, and we typically have education. And so you do have to sit through the education, whatever that topic may be. But there's 30 minutes networking beforehand. Yep, that's it. And each, there are different chapters. We're in the San Mateo chapter. And so there are a lot of different chapters, and all the meetings are on there and events. There are also some larger educational conferences that you can go to. I will say, the monthly chapter meetings are a lot more intimate. We have about 30 people. The larger events and CPE education events, I think you really need to be a sponsor for people to see you. Because it's a lot harder, but there are also tons of, during those events, a lot of networking, cocktail hours and things like that. And we always talk to people, at those and get business cards. And, the more people the better, because there are a lot of really, quality realtors and attorneys and people out there that we want to work with the best. So I think it's beneficial, and I think that's a really good way to meet fiduciaries.
So the website I put there was PFAC for Professional Fiduciary Association of California -pro.org, pfac-pro.org. And they have a great chapter near me in Long Beach I went to. You talked about the education. And while maybe sometimes those are necessary evils, I remember going to one about, what was the term they used? Hex petitions. There was an attorney who gave and as a real estate agent, I didn't really know what that was about, but what a valuable tool to learn. And this particular attorney actually gave a copy of his filing so that when I talk to other attorneys, I say, hey, I happen to have the filing from this very well-known attorney in Long Beach that you can look at and use and whatever to incorporate into your pleadings. And it just was such a valuable experience that, to be honest, it was more valuable than the networking. So I was looking at the topics. Now, a lot of them get to be very granular for me as a realtor or, appropriate for fiduciaries. But I would definitely say, take a look at the education as a way to improve yourself. Rather than just focusing on the networking part, but I think it's definitely worth.
And we've also had realtors, you could always offer to the chapter. We've had realtors speak, and especially, property managers, realtors who also do property management. We've had them come speak and talk to us about liability issues and really the benefits of having, like a property manager versus doing it yourself, and the California laws especially. But even realtors, coming and speaking or if you want to offer a topic, we're learning from realtors too. So
I'd love to do a speech to fiduciaries and attorneys on court confirmed sales, the 35 mistakes. I have a list of every mistake I've seen made on those, as well as in California, just reading the probate notes. I feel like I should be training attorneys on, I don't know if you get involved in that with the litigation, but sometimes the attorneys aren't aware that the judge kind of gives them the crib sheet. And if you don't read it, then you're just kind of walking blind. But to me, you kind of telling the judge you don't know what you're doing if you don't review those. Those are my two pet peeves. So, okay. I'm sure you have yours as well. I don't mean to go on and on. Okay, look, I thought this was really helpful. I appreciate the opportunity to get into depth. I don't see any outstanding questions. I think we covered everything. So Karyn, I think I'm just going to say thank you so much. I know this time of year, on one hand, we're busy trying to wrap stuff up. On the other hand, you're also trying to get out the door to get with your family and friends. So I really appreciate taking the time to share with us, educate us. If somebody had more questions, or if they had a particular trust or estate that needed professional fiduciary, or maybe they had questions about that, what is the best way to get in contact with you or find out?
Yeah, you can always give the office a call or send me an email. More than happy to answer any questions that come up. This life is a learning process, and getting if somebody wants to know something about what we do, or it's very juicy and interesting.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Well,
again, so the website is Lassahn Financial Services. Lassahn is the company. The San Mateo office number is on the top, 650-578-9030. And the website, I just covered it up because I'm so fancy with my services here. Hold on a second.
It's the whole name, LassahnnFiduciary.com.
Lassahn Fiduciary. I knew I get the accent wrong, whichever way I went.
Okay.
I was like, which way do you go with that one? It's going to be wrong.
Tough.
Just go with it. Sonia, very nice. Thank you for your time. Karyn, thanks so much for your time. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. And thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy holidays.
And for the rest of you, this is live streamed onto YouTube. You're welcome to see the replay there as well. We do this every week. Now we're going to be off for the next 2 weeks for the holidays, so we'll replay some of our best episodes there. But you can go to LAProbate on YouTube and see our past episodes. You can go to probateweekly.com to sign up, as well as see the past episodes. So I really appreciate you guys' time. If I can help with anything, please reach out. And if I don't speak to you, have a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and a Happy New Year. Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much.